Hello and welcome to OT, the podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time, and how to spend it. My name's Felix Schultz.
And I'm Andy Green. Felix, how you going, mate?
Happy Halloween, Andy.
Ooh.
Yes, post-Halloween, I guess. It's been a week-long sugar crash.
What skull watch did you wear out to go trick-or-treating?
I didn't wear it out. I'm still not on the watches. The arm's mostly better, but I'm still not on the watches on yet.
We missed out an opportunity to do the best skull watch to wear trick-or-treating.
I love a good best skull watch article.
Okay, quick takes.
Constantine Shaken, he's always in the best. I mean, it's his entire brand, really. He's novelty Halloween watches.
It's really where Bell and Ross, I think, run.
Fiona Kruger doesn't get enough attention.
All Fiona does is skulls. You've got HYT. They've got like that Iron Man skull.
But I mean, as a brand, are they still around? I'm assuming this. Sorry, I had a caveat in my head of like current production. Like we can't go back 5 years.
Oh, okay. You've got Richard Mille.
Yeah,
famous.
Yeah.
You have. Didn't Louis Vuitton do a skull with a snake?
They had a Carpe Diem minute repeater, the old skull tambour case
for Ed Hardy spec.
Yes. Yeah, very
I have to give it to Bell and Ross though. I think
yeah. I mean, it's pretty good skull watch.
They've done a bunch with the skulls. They did the bronze skull. They did that skull within the square.
It's their what do they use, like the airborne, like the commandos or something. There's some like vague military tie to legitimize their aviation skull vibes. But
you know who I think needs to have done a skull watch if they haven't?
Rolex.
No, Frank Mueller. I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have. With Google.
Frank, if you're out there, let us know if you've made a skull watch. We didn't talk about Halloween with our guest this week, which was maybe a missed opportunity because he's American and they love Halloween.
And his last name is kind of magical as well.
I mean, it's not Zach Blam, it's Zach Kazan from More Than Wound. No, we did talk about films, and there's a famous film director, Elia Kazan, so maybe they're related. Who knows?
Oh, well, who is our guest this week, Felix?
No, it's Zach Kazan from More Than Wound. He's, I believe, a senior editor, and he's a lovely guy.
He's a lovely, lovely fella. We have been big fans of More Than Wound for a long time, so I'm excited to have Zach on and chat with him.
I like his takes. You know, like when someone's like, "Yeah, I get you with watches," like it's in the same wheelhouse.
Do you see a lot of yourself in Zach?
Look, I'm not gonna lie. His 3 watches under $5,000 is essentially mine.
There's definitely some overlap. There's definitely some,
Watch nerd spec.
If you ever went down in a plane crash,
yes,
I've got Zach to fill that big.
Yeah. Okay. Were you auditioning in a replacement? Was that the soft?
Yeah. Well, sorry. If you go down in a plane crash and you don't make it through the jungle. Speaking
of Andy, look at this. I suspect that was the deliberate segue on your.
It was, yeah.
Because we've been in my household, I've been really, massively obsessed with getting firewood, catching fish, foraging. We've been all from the comfort of my couch. We've been on the alone bandwagon.
Yeah, 10 seasons are out. We've just joined in. You've been bullying me for about 2 weeks to do it, and now I'm hooked. Now I'm addicted. Good.
I'm glad because I knew you'd like it. So the premise for anyone, we're very late to this party. It's a TV show where it's a competition show. You win $500,000 if you can survive alone for the longest time. But the gimmick is that they're genuinely pretty alone. Like they film all the footage themselves. Like it's not like Survivor where there's 50 cameras, behind them.
They seem to have a GoPro and then a camcorder on a tripod that they move around.
And they've got they've got like a hunting cam, like a
trail cam.
Yeah.
So they get like a kit of, I think, a bunch of survival stuff, like safety equipment, medical packs, and a trail cam.
So they get in another series that I've watched, it's like a 70-pound box of camera gear. So what I wonder is, do they just give them like 50 SD cards?
And
or
batteries?
Does someone come back every so often and like check them and go, "Oh yeah, you're doing this right"? Like, because that's what I'd stress out about.
They do training. They
Yes.
do training for it. So, and there's a shortlist process. And I think I saw them in one of the episodes changing the batteries in the trail cam. So I think everything is just battery powered.
Yeah, right.
And they wouldn't use that much. Like, they're not filming entire days, I don't think. I think they're just sort of taught to film highlights.
And I think there's contracts, like in some of them say you have to film, like, because one of them was like, oh, I could do this, but it's really hard to do it while holding a camera.
Yeah.
So there's sort of obviously some obligations in there. What I find fascinating, though, is I love this. This is how I got onto it. Is I was getting TikToks of like the 10 things they take.
Yes.
So like they can have 10 choices of, you know, this is the axe I'm taking, this is the fishing twine I'm taking, you know, all this sort of stuff. It sort of, I don't know, speaks to some deep nerdy need of like categorizing and like getting the best, which is very watch nerd, I think.
What watch would you take on a situation like that? Because none of them take any watches.
No, why would you?
Yeah, you don't want time to go past.
If you've got 10 things, I'm going to rephrase it. If there was a watch sponsor and they all had to wear a watch, what would be the choices?
It's a G-Shock for sure.
There's a few other options. Something with an EPIRB, so like a Breitling Emergency.
Yeah,
I could say Breitling would sponsor it if they, you know, decided to make a massive deal out of the, you know, the emergency for whatever reason. They could sell it in that way. G-Shock or something like Seiko Astron with, it's a good way to show off that capability.
Probably something with a GPS in it or something.
Or like a Garmin or like one of those, if again, they go 80-day battery life, you know, and those sort of ultra marathon sort of watches that track like your heart rate. I think that would be, you know.
Okay,
like
but say you want to be stylish out there.
Was I not giving you the right answer, Andy?
Yeah, so you want to be stylish as you don't shower for 3 months.
Louis Vuitton Tambour.
Tag Heuer Solograph would be pretty good, actually.
Sure. So if it's stylish, like a stylish everyday watch. Let's keep it simple. From my own collection, maybe the Helios.
Yeah.
You know, just
something waterproof, bit of a strap monster.
Brighten up my day.
Yeah. You could use it as a weapon. You could attach it to some string and throw it at some...
Take out a bear.
Take down a bear with it, yeah.
So alone, highly recommend it. It's good. I, based on someone else's recommendation, started at season 3, which apparently is a high point.
Oh no, really? Because that's where I've started.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, creativity and drama in this season. So let's see what happens from here.
All right. What else?
I've watched another series called Blackbird, with starring Taron Egerton, who you know from the Kingsman movies and was he Freddie Mercury? No, Elvis.
Yeah.
Not Elvis, Elton John. My God.
Elton John, one of them.
I'm still standing. So he's in it, as is Paul Walter Hauser, who is sort of a character actor who you might remember recently, Andy, as the Reddit guy from After Party Season 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, so he's in it. Not spoiling the premise too much, Taron Egerton plays a criminal who has to essentially, he's given a deal to, if he can find out where Paul Walter Hauser who is a convicted serial killer who they suspect has killed more people.
Yep.
He's tasked with making friends with Paul Walter Hauser and finding out where, you know, the literal bodies are buried. Okay.
And it's a couple of years old, right? Like 3 years old?
Pretty recent, like maybe 2022.
Okay. And what do you give it out of 10?
It's also, interestingly, I'm going to say Ray Liotta's last role.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah, he was looking pretty old, and they sort of had an in memoriam halfway through it. But yeah, it is heavy watching. It's pretty.
It's a bit dark for your liking.
I don't mind a bit of dark sometimes, but it's got to be the right time of day.
Okay.
You know? And the fact that this was like a 6-part limited run, you know, you knew it was going to be fairly contained. Paul Walter Hauser, incredible. Genuinely, like, I've seen him in bits and pieces, like he's sort of comedy and you know, fight. This is, you know, real creepy stuff based on a true story.
Did you see the Hodinkee, G-Shock, John Mayer, Ed Sheeran limited edition?
I've got many sponsored stories.
So many sponsored ads. As of right now, Felix, you can still buy one. How many do you think that they made?
Do they say how many they made, or is it just limited?
It is a limited edition. It doesn't say how many numbers.
10,000.
I reckon 10,000 at least to make it worthwhile for all the parties involved.
Do you reckon Ed Sheeran fans would buy it?
Yes, yeah. If you look at the comments of the sponsored posts, it's a lot of Ed Sheeran fans saying, "Oh my god, yeah, this is so cool. I love this tour." That's the crossover, and it happened when Bamford did the Kylie Minogue collaboration watch as well.
Hang on, Bamford did Kylie Minogue. Why have we not talked about this?
I think we did.
Right,
Yeah, pull it up.
Talk about more. Our queen.
Yeah, it was a Mayfair. They did the Mayfair a couple of years ago with Kylie Minogue, and the comments were all Kylie fans being like, "Oh my god, I want this," because the price point was sort of maybe like £800 or 800 Australian dollars, and people, it was enough. It was the right price point for super fans to be.
I mean, also Kylie's fans are getting up there in age and wealth, one would assume. So
yeah, 100%. But I find this interesting that watch people are kind of upset that there's so many, because normally they're upset that it's sold out too quickly now.
Gatekeeping, 100%.
Now it's, I would have hated to have bought 5 of these and put them on eBay. But I mean...
Gatekeeping and clout.
Yeah. So you can still get one. I looked at it, I thought, yeah, it's kind of cool, but I just don't like the 6900
series.
It's too big for me, 50 mils. In that case, it's just, nearly 2 centimetres high.
Pretty yellow.
Oh, I don't mind that. It's just it's a bulky watch.
Do you know of the G-Shocks? Do you know what G-Shock I have that I wear the most?
Which one?
Little Top Woods one.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Really
that's because you're an OG.
Yeah.
Oh, the Bendigo when he comes out.
Yeah.
Speaking of limited editions, Zenith Chronomaster collaboration with Aaron Rodgers, NFL quarterback.
You're going to have to tell me about this one, because it looks like a green Chronomaster to me.
It's exactly what it is. So Aaron Rodgers has been friendly with the brand for a few years now. NFL player, and wearing nice watches is sort of guaranteed at this point. It's not a surprise to see, but he's been doing more and more watch stuff. And eventually, I guess he's stepped in. They've paid him enough money to do a LE together.
Yep.
Green dial, green bezel, Chronomaster, which is a watch that's kind of nice that a lot of people don't really buy, but probably should if you bought watches off the spec sheet alone. Yeah. The specs of that watch are great. It's a competitive watch. It's got everything you could want and more, but people still... do they sleep on it, Felix? Do people sleep on the Chronomaster?
I don't know. I just think there's a lot of... it's not hype. I mean, there was a bit of hype maybe when it was released.
Yeah, they really tried to hype this up.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on it.
Everyone was saying how it was going to be the next. It was the Daytona killer.
And in some ways it is.
Yeah. I
mean, if on a purely product level, it's very nice. It's in a similar way as it's a very LVMH watch. Like it could say, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way to any brand, it could easily say Tag Heuer on the dial. It's that sort of model of like make a strong, sturdy, reliable platform that ties loosely into our DNA, and that we can iterate on in a flexible manner.
Which they've done a little bit of. They haven't milked the Chronomaster Sport since it came out too much.
And, I mean, they shouldn't, because it's a bit spendier. It needs and that's the thing. Like, you can't rush this stuff. Like, you've got to give it its time to find its place in the market and I mean, look.
Yeah, I got to respect that.
Production,
actually.
It's probably doing really well. It's just you can't compare it to a watch brand that makes 10x.
You are right. They haven't rushed it. They've taken their time. They could have done... Most other brands would have been tempted to have 15 or 20 SKUs, and I think there's...
They probably do, but you don't hear about it. Like,
of the Chrono Sport, I think it's like 6 or something. I don't think there's too many. I don't know if they've done precious metal. Have they?
Might have done like recent. Like, I'm sure the Middle East limited edition. Japan's done. You know what I mean? Like, there'd be a strategy there.
Yeah, but they haven't gone crazy. So they've kept it pretty tight. But anyway, you can get a limited edition Aaron Rodgers if you're an NFL fan, or if you're a Green fan, or if you're a fan of both.
Are you an NFL fan? You're certainly a Green fan. This could be on your...
I'm not. It's a bit... Oh, I do like green watches, but I don't like the dial on it, if I'm honest.
Sure. Cool.
You can get full gold variants, actually. So there is...
For the Australian NFL green-loving fan.
So there's white dial, black dial, and steel. There's two-tone.
Hang on, we're just talking about Chronomasters in general now?
Yeah, and then there's two different dials in gold. So they haven't done heaps. They haven't done... If this was Omega's website, it would be, I'd be on here for 10 minutes reading out the...
Scrolling. Keep scrolling.
Just be scrolling.
Yeah.
But I did see Mike Niveau did his classic spotting. What's on your
real
wrist?
Casual, real
just
casual.
Just bumped into Aaron Rodgers wearing a unreleased watch.
Yeah.
In the hallway backstage somewhere, and got a.
To be fair, you did that once in New York. I remember.
That's true. I did do that.
Wasn't Aaron Rodgers, but you ran into.
It's pre-TikTok. Missed my shot. You've got a spicy watch you want to talk about before we get Zach on.
I mean, it's not too spicy. It's Raymond Wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too spicy. Pause. Raymond Wheel. No, Raymond Wheel have made a watch in collaboration with the estate / authorized representatives of the artist Basquiat, who's a New York sort of, I don't know what you'd call it. They call it neo-expressionism. Very famous these days. Very significant artist historically. Friends with Warhol, and Keith Haring. But very famous for being Jay-Z and Beyonce have some significant pieces.
Yep,
including I think the one with that like blue, like they did a Tiffany sort of inspired by Basquiat thing. There was some weird commercial art stuff happening there, and it looks like I think it's it's their sort of their chunky divery chronograph vibe, not diver, chunky chronograph. It's got that sort of very abstract images on the dial. Basquiat sort of trademark crown at 12, which is a nice little thing actually. And the bezel has got sort of flecks of looks like paint splatches all over it. What do you think of this, Andy?
Yeah, so aesthetically, I like it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think the colours are nice. I at first thought the dial artist had done something with Tag Heuer.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the dial artist being compared to Basquiat would not be offended.
It wouldn't offend him, and Raymond Wheel would not be offended being compared to Tag Heuer. But then you pointed me in the direction of Chris Hall.
Yep.
Bless his soul.
Yep.
His email Substack that he had sent out upon the release of this and other news, which we have subscribed to because we support our friends.
We've spent actual company money on it.
It's nothing. It's like $130 a year or something, or £130 a year. It's a bargain. It's the best watch media you'll get out.
Yeah, 100%. Chris Hall.
Which sent me, yes. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Which sent me on a spiral reading about Basquiat and what he stood for. And this is more or less what Chris pointed out. So now I don't like the watch because of you and Chris Hall.
So his point was that Basquiat would not have been up for some sort of commercial.
Yeah, well, first of all, he sort of said it was derivative in that this is not a direct quote, but it's sort of a derivative application of that style, of Basquiat's style.
Sure.
It was sort of like, here's the media kit, or here's the assets, put it on a watch.
Yeah.
And then sort of what he stood for was not, mass consumerism. He probably wouldn't. He wouldn't do like a brand collaboration or anything like that. So
that's always like with these estates.
Yeah,
always one. I mean, it's not just watches; it's anything like you see. I don't know. Some of them would have loved it. Like Andy Warhol would be all up for it. He'd relish it. I don't know. Whoever you see Picasso on a notebook. It's all pretty sort of money. But like as a product, I don't mind it. I do even say I would like. I think this has potential outside of the Basquiat link. Take the dinosaur off, take the crown off. I like that bezel treatment. It's a nice. It looks like, I could be wrong, and I haven't delved into the press kit too much. It almost looks like, I want to see how it's been coloured. Like if that's an application or if that's in the.
Yeah, I think
it's like a paint or a lacquer or something.
It'll be like an enamel fill. The other side to this is I quite like it, and you're right. He's been dead a long time. His family manage his estate, and it's their choice what they do with it. And it probably will introduce a bunch of people that are not super into art into the world of art as well. But
yeah, I mean, I guess my take on it, and we'll get on to Zach in a second. I don't think we need to. Like, I think it's interesting enough, even if you take the artist link out. That bezel alone is a nice execution,
and look,
it's been fun.
Yeah, and I would hope that I have a legacy strong enough to be a watch collaboration when I'm gone, but I don't think I will. And this reminds me of another very famous watch and watch. I guess the estate. The estate has sold the naming rights with a big brand.
Where are we going? Where are we going, Gren?
Well, I don't know if you remember about 8 years ago, but I met a very famous actor's son, who's also an actor, who told me about for a watch that has his dad's name on the dial, and his dad famously did not like or have a good relationship with that watch brand for a very long time, and now it's one of their biggest sellers. And
does it have the name on the dial, or is it his face on the posters?
Both now. Yeah. So anyway, things happen. And the stories change.
Look, honestly, Raymond Wheel, if you're listening, I like the bezel. I think it's nicely done. The watch, yeah.
Moving on.
Strong stuff.
Time to get Zach on, Felix?
I mean, yeah, it feels like it. Today we talk to Zach Kazan, senior editor at Ward & Wound, who have been providing excellent watch coverage for many, many years now. Zach is based in New Hampshire. He leans towards classic designs and proportions that have stood the test of time. So is that Rolex or Grand Seiko, Zach? How are you?
Oh, wow. You're reading the bio, which I wrote for myself like 4 years ago. I wasn't aware. I need to update that, the classic designs thing.
Classic designs that stand,
Has your bio stood the test of time?
Yeah. I mean, everything stands the test of time if it, I don't know. On a long enough timeline, does anything really stand the test of time? That's another way to look at it, I guess. But
I've got I want to ask you your sort of hot takes in a little bit, but my first, perhaps uncontroversial one is writing bios about yourself is the worst thing to do.
I don't disagree with that. We have like a roster of contributors on the website that we've kind of expanded. If you're on the homepage now, you might see like a bunch of new faces there, and I have to ask them to write a little bio for themselves when we onboard them onto the website. And I never really know what I'm going to get, and it's a tricky proposition. I know because I've had to do it, multiple jobs, in the past.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Is it the only acceptable use of ChatGPT?
Oh, it might be. So my bio was written well before AI assistance was possible. Maybe I should give it another crack with Chat GPT.
Just ask Felix to do. I feel like I always got Felix to do my bios.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
Yeah,
and I think I've got other people to write ones for me as well. Like just say, hey, can you write like 50 to 100 words, and then I'll change it if I need to. But
yeah, that's a good idea.
Anyone listening, it's a service I'm willing to provide. I will write your bio for you. I may or may not outsource it to ChatGPT, and you may or may not like the results.
Got to do what it takes to get by these days, don't you, Felix?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Zach, Ward & Wound started as a champion for accessible brands and has slowly kind of crept upscale, upmarket. You've been there for a lot of it. How has the kind of evolution been for you guys?
I think that we're still there for the small brands, and I think we still write about small brands, micro brands, if you want to call them that. Week in and week out. We just kind of write about the things that are interesting to us, and I think that we kind of reflect a lot of collectors who get into the hobby and they immediately look to as new collectors things that are affordable and easily accessible to them, and then as they kind of grow in the hobby and learn more, they become curious about other brands, maybe more expensive brands and exotic watchmaking and that sort of thing. And so we're just kind of writing about the things that naturally interest us, and we always try to do it from like a grounded sort of like enthusiast perspective, I think.
Yeah, sure. I mean that makes perfect sense. You've been around 10 years, or at least now. So
I think we're in our 12th or 13th year at this point. Yeah.
So the guys that started reading you, buying Seikos are probably now buying Jeans.
I mean, I don't think they're quite up to that, but I mean, I think everyone's taste. I mean, if you spend enough time, in the hobby, as you guys know, over the course of 10 years, your taste will change, significantly. Even if you don't, like move to like a different like price bracket. The things that you like just are naturally going to shift, I think, over the course of a decade or more.
Speaking of, you've we just discussed that you're obviously into classic proportions and designs that stood the test of time. At least you were in 2015. What are you digging now? What are your sort of your personal watch tastes leaning towards?
Well, you were reading that, and I'm thinking about the watch that I currently happen to be wearing. It's a Bell & Ross BR0394 multimeter, which is not classic or conservative in any way. It's a pretty ridiculous watch, in fact. And that is, I think, sort of representative of like where my interests currently lie. I think I've kind of reached a point where I'm interested in kind of like design forward, more just kind of like out of the ordinary, aesthetically interesting watches, and like this giant Bell & Ross square case chronograph with a weirdly kind of like Apple Watch-esque dial is sort of I think it fits that bill for me currently.
And is that something that are you more comfortable in your own interest? Are you bored with boring designs, or are you looking for something maybe a bit more attention seeking? Where's that sort of coming from?
I think what it is just over the course of working in the watch industry. I've been kind of doing this. I started with Worn & Around as a freelancer in 2019, wow. And they hired me full time at the end of 2019, and so I've been getting press releases for black dial dive watches for a long time, and I think I'm kind of it takes a little bit more now to like kind of pique my interest. You kind of just 100%. Like seeing the like sort of like what the average watch looks like in the industry, like every single day, day in and day out.
Sure.
I've just become more inclined to veer towards something a little bit out of the ordinary, I think. And I still like those kind of traditional black dial divers. Like I bought the new Tudor Black Bay with the Meta certified movement, the burgundy bezel. Nice. That was really
Jubilee. Did you get it on the not Jubilee bracelet or the?
Yeah, I got it on the 5-link bracelet, and like that's about as like kind of I love that watch, but it's about as like normie, as you get. But I love the way it looks. I love wearing it, and sometimes those watches still kind of like hit me. But I've kind of started to become a little bit more adventurous, I think, within the last couple of years. Just my taste is shifting a bit, I think.
Now you mentioned that Worn & Wound very much still interested in the independent brands and the entry level stuff as they sort of creep up. Have you noticed that the sort of media, especially that was more focused on high end luxury, is now doing far more in the sort of independent entry level micro brand space?
I think so. I think that the micro brand space has just exploded, and so I think the other media outlets they kind of have to cover those brands because it's where the market is moving towards that. And again, I think it's a matter of collectors kind of maturing and looking for different things kind of that are outside of the box. And a lot of the small brands, the direct to consumer brands and micro brands are offering that.
What do you think what part do you think the economy has to play in this? Obviously, the global economy has been a little bit interesting lately, but do you think that sort of people, rather than getting out of watches altogether, are sort of looking to more affordable options, more affordable fun?
I think so. Yeah. For me, I don't have an unlimited amount of money to buy watches. Unfortunately, I wish I did. I think as the economy shifts, I know that I'm always interested in like trying new watches, just personally, and so I personally look for good value, and I think other collectors are probably doing the same as they kind of like reevaluate, like where to put that disposable income. And there's also just a lot more. There are a lot more options, at like that, sub $1,000 price point, let's say. There's so much more that's really great, out there now than there was even, like 5 or 6 years ago. There's just a lot more creativity, and the craftsmanship and build quality has gotten better. There are more movements available. We have Flyer GMTs now that are like $500-600. Like that was like a dream, far off dream, like 5 or 6 years ago. So.
I also think another important factor in that is accessibility. Like it's increasingly, even if you do have, $5,000-10,000 to get a watch, it's harder to get the watches that everyone seems to want. So
sure.
Maybe you don't want the third string, so you go totally left of field and get something a bit more interesting. Zach, Who do you think is cool in that sort of accessible indie micro space at the moment? Like, who's hot?
Well, so we just, as we record this, we just came off, we're about a week out from the New York City Wind-Up Watch Fair. And, I can tell you that there were a couple of brands that like really stood out where there were like kind of, always like, there's like a deep line, deep, 4 or 5 people deep trying to like get to the booth, throughout the fair. One that really stands out that I'm actually writing about now is Studio Underdog. They just released their new field watches, which are a follow-up to their very popular hand-wound chronographs and like super fun, vibrant colors, a lot of them based on like fruits, like the watermelon and so forth. So I got a chance to to handle the field watches, and they're very much like like core Studio Underdog. Once you like start to kind of like peel back the curtain a little bit, at first they seem a little bit more subdued, but like they're really doing interesting things with dial construction, and there's like tons of fun lume and stuff, and those watches were incredibly popular at the show. Another brand that really stands out is Anardane. I know you guys, we had you guys on our podcast when you guys did your limited edition Anardane, and they're still generating huge crowds at Wind-Up. I think people really love those, and obviously there's a huge wait list, to get a new one now, which is just a product of their popularity, I suppose. And another one that stood out to me and it kind of took me by surprise is Isotope watches. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're a brand out of the UK, and they have a new chronograph that people are really buzzing about at the show. So, and these watches are, they range in price points. The Anardanes are a little bit more expensive, but the Isotopes and the Studio Underdogs are, still pretty affordable. So there's just a lot of like really cool, like creative stuff happening at all price points in the micro brand space. It's exciting.
Was there a bit of a lull with the micro brand space sort of over the last couple of years? Like it feels to me, and maybe I haven't been paying as much attention as you guys have, but felt like, 2016, 17, 18, it was just exploding. There was more micro brands than cents. Then it sort of normalized a bit and went the other way, and now it's sort of back up and happening. Is that a fair statement?
I think maybe a little bit. I think, part of it is just like the taste of the market just kind of like swings like a pendulum. And I think we were at a point where, brands were just doing endless, reinterpretations of, like historical dive watches and, like that sort of thing. And there's only so much of that can really sustain interest. And I feel like now there's a renewed interest in, like other types of sports watches, for example, or just, like creative design forward pieces. And that's sort of, I think it's created a little bit more excitement in the community.
I also think that in that sort of last few years period, the meta narrative of, watch journalism has been around hype watches. That was the big story that everyone was telling. So there's less of maybe you can talk about Ming or Anardane in that context, but now that that's sort of trailing off, we're sort of looking for new things to talk about.
I think so, yeah.
I want to talk about Worn and Wound seems to have a unique ability to create some cool limited editions, and they've got a really clear sort of identity. Can you give us any insight into the laser tag Zodiac? My theory is you just had an idea for a really cool photo shoot and decided to build a watch around it. Am I correct?
I think that I don't think you're correct. I think that I want to give credit to Zach Weiss here, who designs, largely designs, really just about all of our limited editions. And he tells the story better than I can, but he had an idea after the previous Zodiac collaboration that we did, which was sort of like a take on like 90s sneaker design and 90s sportswear, to kind of like go in a different direction along that same line, kind of. And that's where the laser tag idea came from. Another sort of like nostalgic 90s kind of aesthetic, but just like a different flavor of it. And of course, you know, because there's loom all over the watch and on the case, and you know, we have so many like associations with like, you know, going to arcades and laser tag arenas as kids. It naturally led to a great photo shoot, which, you know, everyone on the team who was involved in that is really proud of, and rightfully so. It really came out great.
I did some not a photo shoot. I did some laser tag with my kid a little while ago for the first time in a long, long time. Whew. It is a lot sweatier than I remembered.
I told you it was going to be super sweaty.
It was. We had a launch party in Brooklyn for the limited edition. You know, several weeks back when it launched, and I got in the laser tag arena, you know, kind of towards the end of the night, and it was. I was tired. It was a long day setting up for the party, and man, it's exhausting. I got smoked. I didn't do very well.
The one thing I will say is when I was, you know, laser tagging against a bunch of 10-year-olds, I am smarter than them. It's the only thing I do.
Did you get some strategy out there, Felix?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've probably played more Call of Duty than they have. So, another watch that I see sort of popping up on your IG, so I'm going to assume that it's yours.
Okay,
that's fascinating. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Archanaut 4-Dite.
Yeah, that's mine. I love that watch. One of my like, favorites. And again, I think kind of along the same lines as the Spell and Ross that I'm wearing. It's different. You know, it's unique. You don't see a lot of them, and it just kind of, I think, is a really great example of the sort of like creativity that you can get in the indie micro brand space for, you know, I mean that's like a $4,000 watch, which like to me feels like a lot of value for something that is just like so different and also just like incredibly nicely made. Like it's so wearable and fun. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned the wind-up fair just happening. People can't get enough of brands like Anne Dane. Is it on its 6th or 7th year at this point?
Oh man, I've lost track. I think that sounds right. In New York, I think it's like I think 7 years. There was the pandemic, you know, there was like a gap there, but I think they've done 7 or 8 shows in New York at this point.
Well, I went to the first one in New York and then got banned for life as a result. So I haven't been back. But can you tell me what the fair is? What is like now, 7 years later?
The fair is so we've moved to a larger venue than the one that you probably visited. We're in a beautiful building called the Altman Building in Chelsea, in Manhattan, and we have a total of like 80 brands across 2 floors at this venue. And it's great. Like brands come and they exhibit their watches. Nothing's under glass. People are invited to to handle the watches and try them on. And there's just lots of cool brands and lots of enthusiasts come out to meet and get together. It really feels like a big watch meetup, which is just a lot of fun.
Impressive.
Amazing. Yeah, and this year we added a lot of brands that are kind of like adjacent to watches. So we had like pen companies and and other kind of brands in like the EDC, the everyday carry space. So it's a really cool vibe.
So I think there was probably like 15 brands the first time I went.
It's expanded significantly.
How do you, like, this is maybe a bit too, is that someone that like at least one person's full-time job is putting that together? Because it's not just New York either, is it?
No, so we're in San Francisco, Chicago, and New York currently. So we have a team that sells space to brands and puts the whole show together. It's really become like almost a distinct arm of the company. Like there are people who are always working on putting together a wind-up fair, because it's a ton of work. And I'm very fortunate on the editorial side. Myself and Blake, our managing editor, like we don't really have to do much besides like show up and sometimes like sit on a panel. The heavy lifting is all done by folks on the partnerships and shop side. So I want to make sure I give them full credit.
Always give them full credit.
Which is obviously separate to editorial.
Yes.
To maintain that integrity and independence.
Absolutely.
Are you going to get more wind up? Will there be more locations? You're going to take it on the road? Are we going to see one somewhere else in the world?
Should we come to Australia? Is that the...
You're welcome.
Are you pitching for a job, Andy?
You're welcome. We'd love to have you.
I mean, I think there's definitely interest in going to other cities. Every time I go to a windup, I hear from people who've come from other cities telling us like we need to be in that city. So I think that it's something that is reproducible elsewhere, and I know that that team that is responsible for putting on the show is always looking into like the possibility of expanding. But basically, like any like major American city that you can think of, like I've heard floated as a potential wind-up destination, because there's watch lovers everywhere, so I think that it makes sense.
One of my favourite things about Worn Lounge, as other websites may have their talking watches videos. What Worn Lounge has that is, I think, very, very special is the 3 under 5,000 collection.
Yeah.
Still haven't been asked to contribute one. Very rude. But you're
welcome anytime. We'll make that happen. We'll get the Felix Schultz 3 for 5K happening.
Finally, the one watch piece of writing I'll be excited to write. You did one a few years ago, which is exceptional, and I think still holds up. Do you remember what you put in it?
I have no idea.
I'll tell you. Quartz Grand Seiko GMT.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Seiko Turtle, and an Anordain Model 2, which we can clearly get behind.
Yeah.
Would you stand by it? What would you change? What would you sub in or out?
I would, man. I think
no pressure.
Now I would probably. This is really putting me. This is tough. So I would stand by that Grand Seiko GMT for sure. That Quartz GMT. I owned that watch and I sold it at some point after I wrote that 3 for 5K, and I've actually I just set the watch recon alert for for a new one. I set a watch recon alert for Quartz Grand Seiko, just kind of like to see what comes up, because I kind of miss having a Quartz Grand Seiko. Honestly, I think that holds up pretty well. I think that my bases are pretty much covered with those 3 watches. I might sub something else out for the Seiko Turtle.
Something fun.
Maybe something a little bit more adventurous than that. But I think that I love the Anordain, obviously, and Grand Seiko is one of my favorite brands. But congrats to me on my enduring picks. I think
so, timeless, classic designs, that have stood the test of time.
Yeah, they've stood the test of at least like 2 or 3 years or whatever since I wrote that.
It's interesting because looking at your Instagram, you've got a penchant for color. You strike me as a guy who's a bit bored of black dial, black bezel dive watches, and you're seeking out the color. How would you describe your taste in watches now?
Well, I think that's right. I think that I am kind of more interested in in colorful watches and more adventurous design, and I still have watches that are kind of like more monotone or more kind of like traditional. Like one of the watches I wear most often is my IWC Ceratanium chronograph, which is a watch I love.
Oh, nice.
But I wear a lot of like neutral colors. I don't like dress, particularly colorfully. So I think it's kind of fun to like set that off with like a colorful watch. And I don't know. I'm just like I just find myself drawn to color these days. But I'm like in real life I'm such a I'm kind of like I'm wearing like a dark gray button down shirt right now, which is kind of like what I wear every day unless it's a blue button down shirt. So I get that color fix in the watch, I guess.
The hit. Are you at that point where you kind of you consider an Hublot for just some personality?
I've been at that point for a while. I love Hublot. Okay. Like I think that that's a brand that's been on my hit list for quite some time. And my favorite meeting at Watches and Wonders is always that Hublot meeting where they pull out like the colored sapphire. Yeah. Like it's just, I love it.
I don't know if you were going to ask this question, Andy, or not, but Hublot have done a new creative partnership targeting specifically New Hampshire people that wear button-down polos, and you're the ambassador. They want your design input. You can get one sort of friend of the brand watch. What Hublot is it going to be?
I mean, it's definitely going to be like that tennis ball colored Saxum tourbillon.
Oh, really?
I mean, of course. Like, why? How could I possibly choose anything else? I need like a big glass tourbillon to wear. That's like sort of
done.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is maybe heading down this path naturally, Andy, or not. Hot takes. We've got a Discord chat where we sort of like to maybe in a fairly safe space have some of the more controversial watch opinions. Do you have any sort of mild to spicy hot takes about the watch industry or watches, Zach, that you were willing to share on a public forum?
I mean, I think I probably have some. I never know what is like a hot take versus like a medium take, because I feel like
I'll tell you, a hot take is one that you would, if you said it, you'd be worried about a brand person hearing it, but you say it anyway for like the exhilaration.
Well, now he's definitely got to give us medium takes.
They're not listening though, so you're fine here. This is safe.
This is okay. So I think probably my hottest take is that like I don't really care about like the measurements of a watch like at all, like just personally. Like it's something that I when I pick up a watch and I wear it, and I try it on, I'm never thinking, is this 40? Is this 42? Like I'll have people, you know, like at wind up, for example, it happens all the time. Like I'll be standing at the wind up shop, you know, booth, or, you know, be observing a table, someone's showing watches, or it happens at meetups too, just like little, like kind of neighborhood meetups. People pick up a watch and they put it on, and then they ask like how big it is. And I always think like, how is that going to change your opinion of the watch now? You have it on your wrist. So like either you like it at that size or you don't. I think people internalize the measurement that they think works for them. And like they kind of like live by that.
Sure.
And so like, yeah, my hot take is that people should just throw caution to the wind and just, you know, not really pay as much attention to those numbers, because obviously there's so much more that goes into, you guys know, like there's so much more that goes into a watch's wearability than like the size of the case. So
I mean, do you think it has merit if you're trying to like read or learn about something, you know, online or in video as a reference point? Like if you see a video of Felix with his famously giant wrist and you're like, whoa, that watch is tiny, and then you read that it's a 47 millimeter case, is there some...
Yeah, I mean, you have to like have, you of course have to have like a way to kind of like filter the stuff that's like just literally going to be like unwearable for you. But like I always think like Panerai is like the example I always think of like those watches like measure very large, and then whenever I try a Panerai on, I always think, oh, like that's actually like it makes sense like at that size. And I'm not a Panerai owner. I don't actually like, you know, have any desire to own a Panerai at the moment, but like it's a watch that I always think of when I think about like the measurements and like the size question. It's like, you know, a watch that's like 45, 46 millimeters actually like can be fairly comfortable and feel nice on the wrist, even if you're used to wearing a watch that's like 40 or 41.
Yeah, 100%. I want to shift gears a little bit, because we occasionally DM each other. Like I wouldn't say we're, you know, we've never met each other. We're not really, you know, particularly, you know, great friends until now.
Yeah, of course.
But we've DM'd each other, I think, pretty much exclusively about the cinematic work of Michael Mann.
Yeah.
And you have recently, this is a personal confession, you inspired me not just to rewatch Miami Vice, which maybe holds up, but also to buy and read the novel Heat 2.
Yeah.
The movie, have you read it?
I haven't read it. So I own it. It's one of those books, like many books in my home are just kind of like sitting on my nightstand, waiting to be read, and that's near the top of the list. But I think I know where this is going. They just announced that they're going to be making the movie Michael Mann's into making the sequel.
Yeah. In a shocking, surprising development ever since the book was announced.
Yeah. So I got to read it. Like I definitely need to.
What do you think? So for anyone listening that isn't aware, Heat is a seminal mid-90s crime film starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino for the first time together in a film, I think.
That was the first time where they appeared on screen. Of course, they appeared
yeah, sure.
in The Godfather Part 2, but in different timelines.
And, much beloved by film bros everywhere. Do you think Heat 2 will hold up, or is it a bad idea?
Man, I would never want to say that like Michael Mann shouldn't do exactly what he wants to do. In terms of like his next project. The man's in his 80s, I believe, and I think has earned the right to like make whatever movie he wants. Yep. And if he wants to make Heat 2, then I think Godspeed. Like I would love to see it. I mean, my concern. I haven't read the book, but I know from like the non-spoiler kind of like plot summaries I've read that it covers like the action immediately after like Heat 1 ends, and it covers
there's a few timelines at play in the book.
So you have some like some casting decisions that have to be made.
Adam Driver as a young Robert De Niro, though, Neil, I think the character's name is, would be an inspired choice.
That would be great. Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic option. If I mean, they just made Ferrari together, a movie I haven't seen yet, but I think that would. That makes a lot of sense. I think that Driver kind of has the right energy to play a young version of that character.
And I'm gonna push it to the limit one more time, which I think is another film tagline. Bulgari was the watch in the 90s version. Heat 2, what would be the sort of
Probably
that
Bulgari.
What would be the quintessential late 2020 sort of watch that people would look back on and go, whoa, he's wearing a Hublot. Would it be a Hublot? Would it be a Richard Mille? No, it couldn't be a Richard Mille.
No, it couldn't be a Richard Mille. Why not just like keep it with Bulgari? Like, so Al Pacino wears a Bulgari Diagono chronograph, I believe, in the original film. But obviously there's plenty of interesting Bulgaris to choose from now. So I think keep it in the
little Finissimo
Bulgari family.
Finissimo energy.
Yeah.
And another thing, I'm not particularly across this. Letterboxd, it's a feature, it's a phenomenon. I have an account, but I don't do anything with it. Is it a top 4? You have a top 4?
So Letterboxd, I'm terrible at logging movies on Letterboxd. Like I love to like go in and read reviews. Like right after I see a movie, I'll jump into Letterboxd and I'll read reviews. But I'm terrible at logging my own reviews. But I think you can pick a top 4 on Letterboxd, and it always like shows I think the last 4 that you've watched like on your like Letterboxd page, which is never like the actual last 4 that I've watched because I always forget.
You watch 2 versions of The Killing of Flower Moon.
Yeah. I've seen Killers of the Flower Moon twice in the span of a
go.
week. So that's 7 hours of Killers of the Flower Moon, which is obsessive. I'm psychotic. I don't know what to say.
Is it good? Would you recommend it?
It's great. It's a fantastic movie. Highly recommended. If you're into Martin Scorsese, even a little bit, I think it's just kind of a great sort of like summation of like all the things that he's interested in. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I couldn't make it through The Irishman.
Too long.
I have mixed feelings about The Irishman. I love like the old De Niro and old Pesci like kind of performances. Like once like you get to the end of the movie, I think like it really, I think it's really wonderful. But the like the de-aging stuff in the first like hour and a half or so of the movie is kind of, I don't think that will age particularly well.
Yeah, that's probably, I didn't make it past that, which is probably why, which is very true. We're going to link up your Letterboxd again now and blow you up. So you better start.
That'd be great. Yeah.
You have to update it now. It's a lot of pressure. Hey, I want to ask you about Baltic, because you've seen and you've gone in detail on their latest collection, the Hermetique.
Yes.
So that's 4 colors. They're all sort of half new, half old, but you've got like a green, beige, brown, and then a blue. How does that stack up against sort of like Aquascape and some of their existing lineups? Because it's sort of a
a newer look
field
for them.
watchy sort of thing, isn't it?
I think it's I really like them. I think that the interesting thing that they did with these watches is the crown is recessed into the case. So it's like it wears really sleek on the wrist. It's very, very tidy, kind of like exactly what kind of like in my mind, I'm always thinking like a field watch should be, kind of like unobtrusive and just like incredibly easy to wear. They're like 37 millimeters or something like that.
Not that matters.
What's up?
Not that matters.
No, not that it matters, of course. Yeah, no, not that. Yeah, size doesn't matter. We know that from my previous hot take. But yeah, no, I like them quite a bit. I really like the that tan beige colored one. I think that's kind of the most interesting. The blue one sort of feels like a watch that Baltic like could have made at any point.
Yeah,
they do a really nice job with blue dials, and they've got a lot of great blue dials. But the tan one is kind of a like an uncommon color, I think, for a field watch, and it's really nice. Got a chance to see them all in person at Wind Up, and that was another brand that was like incredibly popular at the show. Like people just love Baltic with good reason. They're great guys, and the watches are awesome.
So with that, the markers on the dial are sort of very 3D.
Yeah,
which is quite unusual. Yeah. It works in person?
Yeah, no, it definitely has like a little like more kind of like depth than what you'd expect from a field. Like I always think of field watches as like being like very flat and kind of like by definition sort of plain. And these maintain like the legibility that you would want in a classic field watch, but they are still kind of like as visually interesting as you would want a like a contemporary watch from a brand like Baltic to be.
Amazing.
Nice. Any other, before we wrap up, any other hot tips of watches to have another look at that were released this year that people might have missed?
Watches that people might have missed. It's hard for me to know like what people have missed because I'm like we try not to miss anything. So, oh man, you might need to edit this out because I'm really drawing a blank.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think that's fair.
Watches that people missed. Felix,
you got
one?
What's new? What's a new micro brand that's?
Oh, what's something I think people have like genuinely missed, which I was really excited about, is Nomos re-released their original club, like the original colorway of the club, just like a month or so ago.
Yeah.
So like that's like I think like I didn't even know that watch had been kind of like discontinued like, out of their catalog. But that's like the most classic club colorway, and it's back, and it's just like kind of slightly refined and made like a little bit more visually interesting than the original. So like that's one that I think people missed because Nomos I feel like didn't like tell anyone about it. Like I got an email to my like personal email like asking me to buy one, but I didn't get like a press release or anything about it. So
yeah, Nomos are doing really well with the club at the moment. They've had a run of good versions of it. I think I really like those Club's smoky great. Ones we were talking about last week, Andy.
Yeah, the new colors. Yeah, they're quiet. I think they're just quietly doing their thing.
They are, yeah, they are. They just kind of hum along and just are. They're very consistent. And I've always loved Nomos, but I was really excited when I saw the. I felt like weirdly nostalgic for it. It's a watch I've always really liked.
Amazing. Well, the last question, Zach, that we have for guests is a recommendation, something non-watch related, podcast, book, movie. I think given your love for films, maybe you can tell us a film recommendation. Caveat is you have to have watched it in the last year, or it has to have been released in the last year. Let's do that.
And it can't be Scorsese. Okay,
so I will. So what I'll do, I'll do this. I'll recommend the films of a particular director and a podcast if I can.
Sure.
I listen to a lot of movie podcasts. I listen to a great one called the Blank Check podcast. And they do like mini series on director filmographies, and they're right in the middle of David Fincher right now. So I've been rewatching David Fincher's movies along with that podcast week to week, and it's really fun. David Fincher is one of my favorite filmmakers, and they just did as we record this, the Social Network episode just went up, so I rewatched that over the weekend. A great movie. His filmography is full of great movies. Zodiac is incredible. I rewatched that recently. But yeah, no, the films of David Fincher and the Blank Check podcast, I think, are
sick.
what I'd like to
That's
recommend.
great. Yep.
Amazing.
What's in the box, Andy?
What's in the box today? Thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully we can organise that wind-up fair in Melbourne, Australia.
We'll have it at your house, Andy.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
That'd be awesome.
There we go, Andy. Zach, one of my favourite watch industry Zachs, and there are plenty to choose from.
There is a lot of
top
Zachs.
three. At least top three.
Top 5. There's so many good Zachs in watches.
Hang on, who's a 4? I can think of 4. I can't think of any. Anyway, look, this is a sick bird. If there's any Zachs listening going, hang on, I'm not in the top 3.
The 5th.
But maybe you are. Any Zach that I meet will be in the top 3. That's my rule of favouriting people.
Top 3.
That was a lovely chat. I'm going to go watch some movies now. If you want to, critique OT's Letterboxd, you can. If you don't have an account, you can reach us at otthepodcast@gmail.com, ot.podcast.instagram. But most importantly, just get on our Discord.
Jump in there, share some hot takes, share some cold takes, chat
Some
with
mid takes.
mid takes. Get shut down pretty quickly.
Great.
No, save your mid takes for yourself. Of course, if you like OT the podcast, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're telling your friends. Make sure you're telling your friends that don't watch brands how to pass money. We will see you guys next time, which is probably next week.
Yeah, maybe the week after. Maybe from Dubai.
Yes, yeah. You'll be on holidays.
See ya.
Bye.